For a huge fan of the first Iron Man film, going back to the origin of Tony Stark felt pleasantly comfortable. We hit most of those same plot beats, and it still gives that he built it in a cave with scraps feel that I got from the first film. But one thing really stuck out to me. I got the feeling that at the time of writing this, they never really intended for Tony to ever come out of that suit. To be honest, the whole thing really gave me Darth Vader vibes. But obviously, that isn't the way that things ended up playing out, and probably for the best. But the thought of being encased in a suit of iron forever, that's literally horrifying. Our story starts out with the sudden return of eye teeth, a saying that Stan was obviously a fan of, as Tony's doing a demonstration for the military of the usefulness of his transistors and how they could be used in the war effort. And to prove this, he blows up a vault door. We get a quick introduction to our characters. Tony is rich, handsome, and incredibly popular with the ladies, sophisticated, and a scientist. We also get introduced to a man named Wong Chu in the Vietnam jungle. This guy really likes to wrestle and twirl his mustache. We skip forward in time a little to find out that the military ultimately does decide to take Tony up on his offer, and they're using some special weapons that use his transistors to great effect. Tony himself is there personally to oversee the use of these weapons, but unfortunately he finds himself stepping in a bit of a booby trap. Picked up by the army of Wong Chu, Tony lies in a bed, his life now on a timer as the metal shrapnel crawls its way towards his heart. Wong Chu wants Tony to design him powerful weapons, with the promise that if he does, they can save his life. But Tony sees through Wong's BS immediately, aware that his time left to live is limited. Now look, to be honest, this issue is fun, but Wong Chu is a pretty weak and unimposing villain, a real mustache twirler with pretty much zero depths. Anyways, Tony agrees to Wong's terms, but instead start looking at ways he can instead keep himself alive, while keeping his captors under the impression that he's designing weapons. On the second day of his captivity, a famous physicist, Yinsen, is thrown in the cell to help him actually build the weapons. Tony and Yinsen get along really well, and in fact Tony is already familiar with Yinsen's work. Putting their heads together, they're able to design an iron body that will keep Tony's heart running, and just in the nick of time as Tony's health is starting to rapidly decline. Unfortunately, as they're powering up the suit of armor, Wong Chu shows up, and in order to buy Tony more time for the iron suit to gain power, he sacrifices himself by fighting Wong Chu. But sadly, before the armor is ready, the man is shot and killed. Getting up, Tony is hardly able to control the heavy iron body. It's a totally foreign concept, but he's smart. And after a few moments, he starts to get the hang of things, and he walks a little bit without stumbling. While Wong Chu struggles to break into the room, Tony continues to acclimate to the suit, all the while dreading the thought that while his heart will now continue to beat, he may have to spend the rest of his life stuck in this iron prison. This is the panel that really made me think, was their original idea for him to be trapped in this thing? That's a pretty dark concept, especially for a story that was probably meant for children. I'm not really sure. If there's any information on this, just let me know. I'd be interested to know why the change, or if I'm just reading too much into it. Anyways, for some reason Iron Man avoids detection by sticking to the ceiling and escapes, just to come back a few panels later and challenge Wong Chu. It didn't make any sense to me. Why bother escaping the cell if he was planning to challenge Wong Chu anyways? The only thing he really accomplished here was to move them outdoors. But yeah, Wong Chu is absolutely no challenge for Iron Man, and he handily defeats him. Wong Chu flees and tries to get his soldiers to deal with Tony, but that doesn't really work out for him too well, so it's time for round 2. Which really doesn't go a whole lot better, as Wong Chu once again ends up running away. I mean really, what do you expect, man? Stop trying to fight a man in full armor with your fists. You're gonna have a bad time. As Wong Chu flees for the second time, Iron Man blows up a munitions storage that he's passing by. I'm going to assume killing the man. I'm going to take a wild guess and assume that Wong Chu is unimportant in the greater Iron Man adventure. It's probably the last we'll see of him. Our comic wraps up with him walking sadly off into the night, contemplating his fate as Iron Man. Anyways guys, I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you will join me for more of my Marvel journey.